My fiancé got me pregnant to tie me down, then freaked when I asked for a prenup. But what he did next shattered everything. I, 23F, have been with my fiancé, 26M, for 3 years. We met whilst I was on holiday, and a few weeks after, he followed me on Instagram, and the rest is history. We got engaged last year and a month later found out I was pregnant. We have a beautiful 6-month-old. We hosted Thanksgiving this year and my fiancé was drinking quite heavily, and after dinner me and my mom were talking about the wedding, which my parents are paying for. I overheard my fiancé tell my brother, who was just as drunk as him, that he needed to tie me down and get me pregnant. Before I realized what a dickhead he was, they laughed it off, but it rubbed me the wrong way because our baby was not planned. I wasn't ready for a child and we were using condoms, but after a few instances where the condom broke, I decided it would be safer if I got on birth control. The first month on BC I got pregnant. We were told that could happen and he said he would pull out to be safe, but I still got pregnant. I was scared ASF, but I personally didn't want to get an abortion. I 100% believe in the right to get an abortion, I just didn't want one, and so decided to keep the baby. I work for my dad's company and my fiancé works at a country club. Money wasn't necessarily why I didn't want a baby, I just wanted to do more before I started a family. I spoke to my fiancé about what he said, and at first he said he didn't remember saying it, which was believable because of how drunk he was, but then he said it was just a joke and it was meant as a compliment because I'm so amazing. So I said okay, good, because we're getting a prenup. I was just joking, but I was also wanted to see how he reacted, and he was pissed. He said why the fuck would he sign a prenup, that we have a baby together, a house together, and that he would not sign one, how we wouldn't need one because we're never separating, and that me mentioning a prenup is insulting and emasculating. I never felt threatened or anything like that, but he did make me uncomfortable and he woke our baby up, so I told him to leave, which he did. The day after I kicked him out, he sent me a long apologetic message about how it was out of character of him to get loud, which it was. He's never acted like that before, and I replied saying I appreciate the apology, but I still just need a day or two to think everything through. The next day he sent a bouquet to the apartment. Sunday he sent me a booking confirmation of a massage he booked for me at the club and offered to come over to watch our son and cook dinner. Tonight he sent me a message saying that I'm being an a-hole and that I'm taking a meaningless joke to heart and that he's wasting money he could be saving for the wedding on the hotel. But now things that went over my head before, I'm starting to think is sus, but breaking up my family over this doesn't seem right. Am I overthinking this being an a-hole? Some of OP's comments. Commenter, if you have a house together, why is he sending flowers to the apartment? OP, we closed on a house but we're staying at my apartment until the lease is up. Commenter, please do not marry him. Call off this relationship. He wants you barefoot and pregnant. Run. The pill is super easy to tamper with. All your ex needs to do is microwave your birth control pills for a short time and your birth control pills are completely useless. OP, I didn't know this. Wow, I never even considered him doing anything like that. I take them like clockwork, so it definitely wasn't that I missed a day or anything like that. Commenter, I haven't seen it said yet, but you mentioned having 2 trust funds, one that you got when you were 18. Does he know this? Think about it. If you don't have a prenup, he'll have access to that trust fund. Don't be naive. And the condom? Come on. He totally baby trapped you. Wake up. OP, yeah, he knows about the trust fund. He was at my brother's 18th. Where my dad said to him not to spend all his money at once, and he asked if all the siblings got one, which we did. Update, next day a lot of people were asking for context. When I said I wanted a prenup at the time, I wasn't being serious. Maybe I was being trying to get a reaction, but based on the 3 years we've been together, I would have never imagined he'd react the way he did. Why did the joke bother me so much? About a year ago he lost his job. He was never really clear why. For the next 3/4 months he didn't really do much. He said he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do next, and that was the first time he brought up having kids, indicating that he was ready. We had a candid conversation on my part about how I want kids, just not anytime soon. I enjoy my job. I had trips planned and I wanted to be married first. He agreed with me that we should wait 3/4 years. My dad's company got a contract at the club, which is how he got his job there, but during the time he was out of work my girls would joke that he's a stay-at-home boyfriend and that I'm the provider and he'd be a stay-at-home dad because I was paying the bills/rent by myself, which at the time didn't bother me. I used to live there by myself before we got together, so it wasn't a big deal, but I guess it was them that first made me question. TBH, I don't know how long the condoms were breaking. A lot of people are saying they've never had them break, and I can't say I remember it ever happening before. I noticed the first time that it looked like it had split, and then I checked it the next time that was also broken, which is when I decided to get an IUD. Which he didn't want me to, but I stood my ground and we compromised and I got on the pill. I know we should have continued using condoms, but he said he'd ran out and that I'm on the pill and don't need them. In hindsight, yes, I should have insisted we still use them, but I choose not to have that battle. I thought we'd be okay. He knew my opinion on abortion and that I wouldn't get one. If I got pregnant, I would raise the baby unless it was for a medical reason. Money-wise, my family's successful. I work for my dad's company. I have 2 trust funds, one of which I got at 18. Before I fell pregnant, I was making plans to start my own house flipping business, but I decided to put that on hold. I still work from home on flexible hours, but he said once we're married he wants me to stop working so I can focus on our kids and that he'll support us, but I've never really liked that idea, mainly because, although I've never had to worry about money, my parents always taught us the importance of financial stability and my mom's always said to never be financially dependent on anyone. Plus my fiancé's current salary I'm not sure would cover all of our expenses. The only reason why I haven't told my dad is because they have a good relationship and I don't want to blow everything up over an overreaction on my part. Some of OP's comments. Commenter, don't you think there was a reason he didn't want you to get an IUD? He can't tamper with that, but he did with the latex. OP, he sent me a few things where people IUDs went wrong, and yeah, I probably should have gone with my gut, but he convinced me the pill would be the best option. But I did speak to my mom because he's come back home. Commenter, the real problem is him not supporting your career. He should be supporting your business and your job, not making you be a stay-at-home housewife. That's ridiculous. Yes, mothers with young children can still start businesses, but they have to be appropriately supported. Can you say he can give you that support? OP, probably not. He's been quite blunt in that he doesn't think I could do both effectively, and after our son was born he said he didn't want a large age gap between kids. Update, 3 days from OG post. I23F made a post last week about a joke my fiancé, 26M, made at Thanksgiving while drunk, to everyone that hasn't seen my older post. He joked that he got me pregnant to tie me down and I didn't know what to make of it, so I posted on here to get outside opinions. I didn't want to initially talk to my friends or family about it because they're all quite close to him and I didn't want to make a mountain out of a molehill and cause drifts in their relationships. Yesterday we had a conversation about where I was at, but he said he couldn't go back to the hotel because they kicked him out for smoking in the room. He stopped smoking while I was pregnant, but he said I was stressing him out, so he had to stay at the apartment. While I was OTP to one of my girls in the bedroom, he came in and took the phone off me and told me to come and eat. While we was eating, he said that he understood what I said and that things need to change for us to move forward. He then proceeded to list all the things I needed to do to make things better. His tone the whole conversation was just making me uneasy. I texted my dad saying that he was making me uncomfortable when he wasn't looking. I went to check on the baby and when I came back I saw him take my keys out my purse but didn't say anything. He took my silence as agreement to everything he said and went to bed, instead of the couch like we had agreed. Like everything was normal, I stayed in the living room and my dad, bless him, drove 6 hours to come and get us. My dad got to the apartment around 5 this morning while my fiancé was still sleeping and we left. Me and my son are at my parents' house now. My fiancé's been blowing up my phone since this morning. I sent a text to him as we were driving off saying he wasn't respecting the fact that I needed space and time to just figure everything out, so he could stay in the apartment and I'll stay at my parents'. We haven't officially broken up or called the wedding off. My parents, who've paid for it, have said that they don't care if I want to call it off, but I feel bad. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who replied to my original post and private messaged me. I didn't think people would care about me. I feel like every option I have is bad. The thought of being a single mom is scary. If my fiancé's behavior gets worse, that would be shit. If we cancel the wedding and cost my parents thousands of dollars, I'll feel guilty. And if we break up altogether, we just got a house together, we're both on the mortgage, our joint accounts, and I've been with him since I was 19. Being without him for good is also scary. Some of OP's comments. Commenter, this guy is bad news. Got you pregnant, laid down the law, and hid your car keys. Don't feel bad about your parents being out of money for what they have spent. From what you told us about his latest stunt and your friend's commentary about him, trust us, they are pleased as punch that he finally revealed himself to you in terms that you can't ignore. I'm guessing they have been biting their tongues, but despite their angst at your choice, chose to respect it and support it. OP, they said that they didn't like how we was getting so serious too fast or how he moved into my apartment, but then I got pregnant, so they didn't want to seem unsupportive. Commenter, OP, listen to this. Condoms kept breaking. That so rarely happens that it happening more than once is super sus. He freaked out over you getting an IUD, a birth control method completely out of his control. BC, he can break condoms and steal/replace/mess with your pills, but there's nothing he can do about an IUD. He refused to wear condoms your first month on the pill, even though you asked him to. Yes, you agreed to go ahead without, but, on that score alone I'd leave. He couldn't hold out for 1 month? You got pregnant during that first month. When you confronted him about his joke and joked back, he lost his shit and scared you. He disrespected your boundary. He couldn't smoke outside? That was the only hotel in the entire region? He has no friends whose couches he can sleep on? Just no. He took your phone away. Why did you let him? He made it your responsibility to fix the relationship. His tone scared you. He stole your keys. He disrespected another boundary, sleeping in the bed. OP, how many red flags do you need? Do not go back to him. That's why he got you pregnant in the first place, so you wouldn't leave him. Leave him. OP, he took my phone to get me off the call. I didn't expect him to literally come and take it out my hand. He gave it back when I came out the room. He just did it to get my attention. As a separate comment, I left with none of my stuff, only essentials for my son. I will have to go back, but my dad said he and my brother will go today. Commenter, next day, hey OP? If you feel guilty about your parents having paid for stuff, cancel what you can and have a good riddance, party with your friends and family with what you can't cancel. OP, my mom's been canceling things from this morning. The wedding's off. Commenter, your head is probably spinning from everything, so sorry you're going through this. What's happening to you is called betrayal trauma. It's easy for women to start to tune out our instincts, but this is a lesson on how real your instincts are. Thank God you realized before you married him. He let the mask slip off too much, but from an outsider's perspective it's clear this was just the start. It takes the average woman 7 times to leave an abusive relationship because we get sucked back in by promises and small sample data of changes. Be strong, get a therapist, lean on your community and heal. If you go back he can start displaying more desperate behavior like what you saw with the keys, and it can get dangerous very fast. He saw you as his life raft and now his life has capsized. OP, heavy on the lean on my community. I had the first honest and open conversation with my mom for the first time in a long time, and I feel so different and so much better. My head was a mess and Reddit probably wasn't the best place to talk about it, but it's anonymous and it felt good to get it out. Update, 3 weeks later, read my previous posts for context. I, 23F, made a post on here about my ex-fiancé, 26M, and a joke he made at Thanksgiving. Things escalated and I decided to take our 7-month-old and leave. We've been at my parents' since then. I didn't go about it the right way, leaving without telling him, and the next morning, understandable, he was confused when we weren't at home. Initially I went no contact, and because he couldn't reach me he called the police saying that he thought I was having some type of breakdown and have PPD, and that he was afraid for me and our son's safety. The police alerted my parents that I'd been reported missing and asked if they'd seen or heard from me, and we explained that I left because I felt uncomfortable in the apartment with him. So I started speaking to him again. I told him why I left but apologized for leaving the way I did, and he also apologized for everything that's gone down. He said he'd bought stuff for me and the baby for Christmas already and wanted to give it to us, so asked if he could come to my parents' house at Christmas. It was our son's first Christmas. Despite what's going on between us, he's still his dad and I didn't want to make him miss out. I explained all this to my parents, who agreed to let him come, and we had a good day. He brought the stuff like he said, and he was respectful and didn't drink. It felt like how it used to. He came back the next day because he left his wallet, but we talked for a while. He promised to stop drinking because that was what caused everything, him getting drunk and saying something stupid without thinking, and he was alright with us postponing the wedding, saying he just missed his family. He asked if we'd come back with him, but I said I wanted to stay here. He said he understood. We didn't speak for a few days and he sent a care package with things he knew I liked, and he wrote in the letter that since all my stuff was still at the apartment he wanted me to have things that reminded me of home. I called him to say thank you and we FaceTimed so he could see the baby. I went out on night with some friends from high school, and the day after he texted me, asking if I got home alright and if I was hungover. I said I was fine, but then I realized I didn't tell him I was going out, so I asked how he knew, and he said he saw me on an Insta story and knew it was my first time drinking since giving birth. He said he didn't go out and could have watched our son, but I didn't plan to go out. Originally, I was gonna stay home, but my mom encouraged me to go, and by the time I decided I was going, it was too short notice. He wouldn't have been able to come in time, since it's a 6-hour, maybe longer drive depending on traffic, but I could have at least let him know, I guess. My dad and brother wanted to drive back to the apartment to get my stuff, so I asked him when would be a good time for them to go, and he said that I didn't need to move out, and that even though he thinks I'm blowing everything out of proportion, he would wait for me to get over it so we could be a family again because he needs us, and that he'd stay in a hotel and I should move back in. The wedding's been cancelled. My parents lost most of the deposits, which I'm gonna pay them back, and everyone I could tell that the wedding's been cancelled I've told. I'm not sure if he's done the same. At Christmas my SIL was complaining about the new iOS update and how annoying it was, and I hadn't updated my phone yet, so I decided to do it then and left my phone on charge. When I had remembered and went to check on my phone, it had reset, and my ex said that his one did the same thing. This account was a burner and I didn't remember the details initially when I reinstalled Reddit, but I managed to get back into it. My parents said I can stay as long as I need, but I feel like a burden. They were supposed to go away in a week, but they've canceled it and they lost all that money on the wedding. So I need to figure myself out soon. A part of me thinks I'm being stupid throwing away my family over what started as a drunk joke, but it's become more than that and I'm just lost ATM, but yeah, that's where I'm at. But I want to thank y'all. I've had a lot of messages and people checking on me. I know some are probably disappointed that I haven't cut him off completely, but it's not that simple, especially with a baby, and these last few weeks he's gone back to how he used to be, and I'm realizing that I've probably caused a lot of this by overthinking the joke. Some of OP's comments. OP clarifies, whose Insta he saw me on TBH. I haven't been able to get into my account since Christmas, it's so old I don't remember the login details. To a downvoted commenter, I get I should have told him I was going to my parents, but I've already apologized for that. I'm not keeping our son from him. Every time he's asked to see the baby he has, he came at Christmas, he didn't ask to see him on Nye. Commenter, if you are thinking of going back, make sure there is an agreement that your career and job is not affected by having children. Also, in your last update you informed him where you were going. So how could he be confused? OP, downvoted, my dad asked him this at Christmas, but he said he just panicked and called the police as soon as he woke up and realized we was gone without checking his messages. New update, 2.5 months later. Title, AITA for not lying to my parents about my BF's behavior. I, 23F, made posts on here a few months ago about my BF, 27M. Our relationship blew up after he made a joke about getting me pregnant on purpose at Thanksgiving. I know I haven't posted in a few months, but I got back together with him. At the time him and his family were making me feel guilty for breaking up my family. So I did it for the sake of my son. I figured if we were happy then I could forget everything that happened and give my son the childhood that I had. We moved into the new house. We were so good for the first few weeks. My parents go on a cruise for a month every February for my mom's birthday. They wasn't gonna go this year, but I felt like we was in such a good place that I said I'd be okay and told them to go. I started having brunch with my girls again, but one week it was dinner to fit everyone's schedule. He found out one of my friends who he doesn't like was there and locked me out of the house, so I slept in my car. When he let me back in, he said it was because it was late, so he thought I was staying at a friend's. I think it was around 10:30 that I got back, but my friend who was there said that he watched her Instagram story, so I asked him again, and that's when he said he doesn't like me hanging out with someone who doesn't respect him. He did apologize and I know it was fucked, but I just let it go. I decided when our son turned 10 months that I was ready to go back to work part-time. We have an on-site daycare and I'd only be in the office 2 days a week and WFH 1 day. I told him about my plan and he didn't like it, but I stood my ground. He just made it so difficult to be in the office. He'd call me, then he started showing up with the baby. So I started working from home 2 days a week instead, but then he would go out / to the gym and leave me while I'm working with our now crawling baby, so that became basically impossible. I said that I needed to work to pay my half of the mortgage, but he said I didn't need to and was choosing to, but the compromise was that his mom would come over and watch our son on the days I was working. Him and his mom would say that I'm not taking good care of the house or our son because I'm working and going out. It didn't help that our baby's going through a clingy phase and is hysterical, crying whenever I put him down. I met his grandma for the first time and she tripped on a toy car that I forgot to pick up. She was fine, she didn't fall or hurt herself, but it did scare us. That night he got physical for the first time. He said he didn't like how I just laughed it off when his grandma could have really hurt herself, which I understood because his grandmother's 89. We would be good and then I'd do something to ruin the mood. I'd try not to, but at times it was like me existing would piss him off. My parents have been wanting to FT while they've been away, but I would always air their calls and just send videos of the baby instead. But my mom called me today while I was working and I answered, forgetting my cheek was still a bit swollen, and I ended up just telling her everything and they're flying back tomorrow. My BF's mom heard me on the phone and cussed me out. She basically said that my relationship should be private and that it's no one's business what me and my BF do. OP's only commenter, girl, I know it's easier said than done to leave the father of your child, but you are being abused. It will never stop, and what if it extends to your child? What if he hits your son? Would you want your son to see his mom being abused? Kids pick up on these things far faster than we realize. Would want your son to abuse his future partner because that's how his parents' relationship was? For your son to think this okay? Would be tell your friend to stay if this was her in your place? Why would you accept something for yourself when you wouldn't want the same for others? Hold yourself to the same standard you hold your dear ones. Please leave him. Think of your satisfy and what kind of life you want for your son. Document everything and get full custody. You have your support network in the form of family and friends, which many victims of abuse don't have. Please don't let him isolate you. Your son will be so much better off without a father like him in his life. He has you and his supportive grandparents. OP, I know, I'm trying to. He just knows me. Update, his mom made me feel like I had just ruined my life by telling my mom what's been going on. She was saying how much he wanted to be a family and a father unlike his own. She said how much she struggled being a single mom and how lucky I am to have someone who wants to take care of me and that it's gonna be hard to find someone who's willing to look after someone else's kid. My parents landed the next evening and my mom insisted I go to the hospital. It was there that I discovered I had actually fractured my rib. It was just a hairline fracture, but my doctor was required to report my injuries. I was discharged and me and my son are back at my parents' house. We haven't spoken since I've left. I know that he's not good for me and someone said how my son's going to grow up thinking it's okay to hit your partner and that's fucked up. I was in a bubble and it popped as soon as I spoke to my mom. I never thought I'd be in an abusive relationship, but it's like I woke up and was suddenly in one. Reading back my posts, yeah, I'm like, this is fucked, but when it's happening in real time it was easier for me to ignore all the messed up shit. I'm meeting with my dad's lawyer on Tuesday to talk about the next steps. Moving on to our next story, and it says, I told my boyfriend I was uncomfortable with his friend who abused his ex. He won't drop him. Am I overreacting? I and my boyfriend has this childhood friend, we'll call him Alan. They've been close since like middle school. Cool, whatever. Anyway, a month ago, Alan's girlfriend dumped him because he was cheating. Not just texting other girls, but also guys, had Grindr and like 3 other apps, literally scheduling hookups behind her back. Super grimy stuff. When she found out and ended things, rightfully, he apparently lost it. He begged her to take him back, and when she wouldn't, he snapped. From what I heard, he grabbed her by the throat and pinned her down. Then later, he keyed her car and slashed her tires. Yeah. Real unhinged behavior. I didn't know the full story until yesterday. One of my girlfriends filled me in. I had seen my boyfriend hanging out with Alan a few times recently, but I thought it was just like casual, checking in on him stuff. Once I found out what really happened, I was livid. I called my boyfriend and told him straight up, what Alan did is seriously messed up, and I don't get why you're still hanging out with him. He kinda tried to defend it, saying Alan's going through stuff and that he's known him forever, so it's hard to cut him off. He even said he warned Alan that if he ever touches another girl again, he'd beat him up. I told him I just assumed he'd drop anyone who did something that disgusting. Like, that should be a no-brainer, right? He went all quiet, told me good night, and hung up. He didn't text me at all the next day. Not a single hey or good morning. Nothing. So I talked to my mom about it, because moms are wise, and she helped me write out a message to try and explain where I'm coming from. I sent it to him, hoping it would get through. Spoiler, it didn't. He doubled down. Said he didn't want to be the kind of friend who ditches someone when they're down. He literally said, that's the difference between me and you. And that it's the Christian thing to forgive and support people, even when they mess up. Like, okay, sure, forgiveness is fine. But supporting a guy who choked and stalked his ex? That's your hill to die on? He ended the convo by saying he had a lot to think about, then dipped again. And honestly? I'm not even mad anymore. Just kind of stunned and over it. Top commenter, I don't think your boyfriend's views match yours, and I don't think you should stay in a relationship where he makes excuses for his male friend's abusive actions. When I was in my 20s, I was in the car with my ex, who was driving, and his friend in the back. Something happened, and my BF got pissed at me and said, I should punch you for that. His mate leaned forward between the front seats in a heartbeat to tell him that if he ever said that again, he was going to get knocked out. That is a real man. Update, so I gave him space. A few days went by. No calls, no texts, no I've been thinking message like I halfway expected. Just silence. And I don't know what I thought would happen. That he'd come to his senses? Realize this isn't just about being a loyal friend, but about basic decency? Respecting boundaries? Apparently not. I finally reached out again, mostly because I couldn't stand the limbo anymore. I told him, I'm not asking you to be heartless. I'm asking you to draw a line. Abuse isn't a mistake you just wave off. And if you're choosing to stand by someone who did that, it makes me question your values. His response? A whole wall of text about how I don't understand male friendship, how he's trying to be a better influence for Alan, and how it's not his job to police his friends. He said I'm being too black and white and judgmental. And I just sat there staring at my screen. Like, how did we get here? I told him flat out, if you want to be friends with a guy who choked his girlfriend and vandalized her car, that's your choice. But it's also my choice not to be with someone who's okay with that. We haven't spoken since. I think the saddest part is realizing that the guy I thought I was building something with, someone I trusted, doesn't really see the problem. Or maybe he does, but not enough to act on it. And that says a lot. So yeah. I'm heartbroken, but I'm not confused anymore. Top comment, commenter, male here. I haven't been in this exact same situation, but I was part of something similar. I used to have a male friend with whom I was super close for about a decade. We hung out all the time. I was the best man in his wedding. He and his wife decided to open up their marriage, and I started noticing that he was behaving strangely. He kept asking me how my own relationship was. He brought up the idea of swinging with my girlfriend, and we both dismissed it. Things came to a head when he showed up somewhere he knew my girlfriend was going to be. He didn't know I was going to be there too and was genuinely shocked to see me. He decided to shoot his shot and said he went there to see if my girlfriend would be interested in hooking up with him. To her credit, she responded, "Well, I'm glad you came all the way down here so I could reject you in person." She told me that she didn't care if I wanted to stay friends with this guy, but that she felt uncomfortable around him and wouldn't allow herself to be near him any longer. I immediately dropped that friendship without a second thought. My girlfriend is now my wife. We just hit our 5-year wedding anniversary. I've never regretted ending that friendship. Not even once. Anyway, I know there are people saying you shouldn't put boundaries on this guy, but I don't think that's what you've done here. You put a boundary on yourself. You're self-aware enough to know that you can't be with a guy who doesn't see the problematic behavior of his friend, and you shouldn't have to subject yourself to a relationship with someone like that. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, but I'm proud of you for making the decision that's best for you.